That was just a adoption of these. Oh, so you get to adopt the curriculum and the integrated programs. What's the action on the integrated programs?
So there's a question mark behind it. It looks to me like we need to decide whether that's something we need to approve or not.
Right.
Well, where's Joe? Joe will know. I think we just have to, I think you guys have to approve the budget officially, but it's more about it being in front of the board. He has a whole presentation that he'll post on the webpage, et cetera.
Okay.
So,
Oh, who are we missing?
They have to approve the budget, right? That's it.
I know.
Yeah.
Sorry. No worries. Okay.
Times.
Yes, I do that first, right? All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order on April 2nd at 5:05. Would we all rise for Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any additions, deletions, amendments to the agenda?
The only thing I would say, there doesn't need to be a question mark after the action.
Okay, we do have to
Board
do
needs
something.
approve the plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone like to move that we adopt this
I
agenda?
move that we adopt the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
All right,
Aye. I did not see any community comments unless somebody wrote something down in the last 30 seconds.
Did you already check it?
Okay.
Well, I need a pen anyway.
She's going for more cake. Okay. Business and finance reports. Sherry.
Waste your time either, is that what happened? The reports are, there's nothing concerning to report, everything is where we can gonna look how we think. I do want to make one comment though. I haven't received a sub bill since December sub, so next month our sub costs are gonna look really high. And the purchase services or utility and purchase services line item, just so you can be aware.
Okay.
and
Well,
that will be $500,000 or what kind of money?
No,
Yeah.
it won't be $500,000, but
It'll be, it's about 40-ish a month. 40. And we had spring break in there too, so that'll be a shorter one.
Okay,
Nothing huge, just might come as a surprise.
okay.
Yeah.
So,
Nothing interesting happening in finances. We're not broke, so that's.
you guys wanna go first? You want Joe? Who? Yeah, there we go.
Great.
Melissa and I are back
to present to you a proposal for an adoption for K3 ELD curriculum. So, or ELP actually, English language proficiency. So, you're in Joe's. Joe. Yeah. Slide 19. Perfect, thank you very much. So, just to kind of remind you of our process that we've gone through with adoption, last year we came and presented the 4th through 12th grade. And, both of these adoptions are as a, go to the next slide, sorry. As a result of a compliance audit that was conducted in 2023 for us in Sisters for Title III. And so ODE required that we adopt a new ELP curriculum at that time. So last year, we requested postponement of adoption to January of 2024. And then we embarked on the process, and we had a team that we brought together, and we looked at all the different materials, narrowed it to 2 best options. Then we met with representatives and we had them come and present to us, and we looked through samples. So we did that with both of them. So this should look familiar because it's the same process, right? At that time, we did select a possible K3 adoption, but we wanted to wait and see if the 412 publisher was going to give us a K3 that would mirror it and we could have a coherent program. Well, it wasn't a great program. And so we saw it, our students saw it, and we decided to go with our first choice that we had made prior. So Melissa's going to share a little bit more about that. But you can see, again, just some more of like that adoption process. If you go to the next slide, but you've got it on your paper. It's no different really than what we talked about. The last 2 bullets, in the fall of this year, Melissa got samples, tried it with her students, did not meet their needs, and then agreed that our top candidate in the fall of 2023 was superior, and we decided to bring that forward to you. So that's where we're at. So if you want to share the K3 and why, okay.
So we would like to move forward with Cengage as the publishing company. It's National Geographic Reach Higher is their ELP curriculum. And it's been fun to explore it with the students. So it's cross-curricular. There's a really heavy emphasis on reading. It also offers topics that cover a variety of science and social studies topics. We like that it has both a digital and a print platform, making it really flexible. And if you're familiar with National Geographic in any form, you know that the photos they have are super engaging for students. A big representation of cultures and topics and subjects, so that grabs their attention right away. We found that in looking at the UFly that our lower elementary students are currently using, that there was a lot of crossover and it can be shared in a lot of different areas. And then it also lends itself to bridging with GLAD units, which is another language acquisition strategy that I like to use with our younger students. So.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
GLAD.
Oh, glad.
Stands for Guided Language Acquisition
Okay.
Design. Yeah.
Thank you.
So here we just added into the slide, show just some pictures of what that curriculum kind of looks like. So you can see some of how engaging it is for kids and the different platforms that can be used. And there's just a kind of a sample.
I think the print samples are also.
Yeah, they're out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can go to the next slide. You want to explain?
Sure. So this shows a couple of the units that are offered. You can see on the very left-hand side the topics. So switching back and forth between a more social studies focus and a science focus. And then across the top are all of the skills that are addressed. one of the things that we know emerging bilingual students need is lots of repetition and practice the skills. And so you can see how they're visiting these skills throughout each unit repetitive. And I, to be honest, I forget what grade we picked for this one.
I do too. We just grabbed a grade level. So, but you can see there's reading, phonics, grammar, there's oral language, there's writing, there's, thinking maps, there's content vocabulary and, academic vocabulary. So there's a lot of different things that are addressed.
And this is just the K3 version of the materials we already adopted, correct?
No.
Oh, no,
No.
we went with a different one
Yeah.
because.
Yeah,
it-
and that was the
Yeah.
only question I have. Do you have
Yeah.
any concerns about that transition from 3 to 4 with using a different? I mean,
I don't, I think that there's enough procedures in place in the groups that would allow them to easily make that transition. There are some things that are very unique about the English 3D program, the other program we're using. But it's not like they're a standalone. It's not something they would have never heard.
why did they fall short on K3? I mean, you clearly didn't like it, so I'm just curious, like.
Full of reasons. It was very structured in the language levels offered, whereas with our elementary students, we often have mixed levels within one ELT group. So that was very limiting, and it would have made for a disaster with scheduling, to be honest. And like, how can I fit this one third grader into a group by himself so that he could use the curriculum that's for his level?
Got it.
The
So the
other-
multiple
And
levels,
adding on to that is a student alone is not going to get the same benefit as a student with a group of other
Yeah.
kids.
got it.
Being able to interact and practice their, their speaking and listening and all of those pieces.
Our elementary ELD groups are lively in the best possible way. And when I did the demo lessons with several age groups, it was radio silence. And so that was a huge indicator to me that this was not an appropriate fit for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Melissa's work as well as our K3 team too. If we have a kid for a couple of years in K3, in our K3 kind of growth, we typically, I mean, we've had celebrations where a lot of those students are passing out of support because combined with their in-class supports, along with Melissa and the other supports, we tend to do a good job of language acquisition at that age as well. You know,
How many children do we have that are served by this program?
Our current active ELs for the entire district are 22. We also have a group that we continue to monitor for 4 years post exit, and then a group that we call ever ELs, meaning at some point in their career, they were an EL student. And so total in our district, we have about 65 to 70 at any given time.
And are they pretty much spread throughout the grades?
Yeah. So K3.
We have about 10 in our elementary.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
well,
that's K5. Yeah.
okay.
Oh, that's K5, okay.
So this will be our K3, and our 4 5s are getting into the English 3D, which helps them as they bridge into middle school and high school. There's a big difference in literacy acquisition for kids in K3. You know, just in all of our students, right? What a kindergartner is able to do and what we expect in a third grader.
Yeah,
Big shifts. And so having the 4th grade align more with our older students makes a lot more sense. And having the K3 much more richer in just pictures and photography and like interactiveness and all of those things are so much more important in K3 as they're building some of those foundational skills.
I have trouble wrapping my head around the difficulty of dealing with the range of abilities and ages with 10 dozen kids in the elementary school in 5 grades, 6 grades.
Yeah. Melissa does a phenomenal job because she's going from high schoolers in the morning to kindergartners in the afternoon, right? She is helping and, I mean, teaching all of our range of kids, and she has the skills to be able to really meet our students where they're at. So
Wow.
we're really blessed to have Melissa on our team leading the work.
Just-
Yeah.
You can join me for a day if you'd like. I'll keep you on your toes.
It is challenging. We did have some move-ins last year, and so that's another thing is, again, public school, like in everything, we get kids where they are and we serve them where they are. And it can be a challenge, the levels that they're referring to are based on language assessments, so level 1s are the lowest and need the most growth, level 5 is when they exit the program. And then there's concern that they haven't developed a strong enough academic language to truly be successful, so we have ongoing monitor of kids who exit to make sure that their academic language is strong enough that they can be successful. So, it just depends, and I think it was last year, we had multiple level 1s moving into high school, and that's a tough age for language acquisition for kids. Much easier earlier. And so we having a broad scope of curriculum, Melissa does a great job, but she is stretched. I think I've informed the board, we've been invited into a statewide, so chuckle when I say invited, but we've been invited into a statewide support because we had a couple of our measures. There was some discipline, and again, I'm just saying what the numbers were, discipline at the middle school and some overall attendance rates that knocked us into the first level of support. And so the good news is we're trying to be positive outside of this massive report that these two have been working on, is that we get money to support. And so we will be able to hire another person to help Melissa serving our kids specifically in those levels, and she won't have to juggle 3 buildings, right? We can redesignate that. So it's a 4-year grant that will help support that. So we're excited for that opportunity. A little concerned about the reporting, but really excited about that opportunity. So, and this will be foundationally one of those, the curriculum that we will be able to help use to support those kiddos as we move, so.
Yeah. So that's our presentation on this, and then Melissa thought it might be nice to just update you on how the English PD has gone for this year with our older students. So we have a slide on that. That she can share.
So we started with implementation this fall with the high school students and the middle school students. It is the sole curriculum for ELD for the high school. Sometimes at the middle school, we incorporate other things. And right now, because of our needs at the high school, we have another teacher who's also supporting our middle school students, which has been absolutely invaluable. As Kurt mentioned, we have had recent enrollment of students who we identify as recent arrivals or newcomers, meaning that this is their first educational experience in the US. So learning a new language as a high schooler with all the other high school pressures and things is very challenging. So we've been able to actually split our students, and we have our what we call beginning or introductory. They're using part of their curriculum called language launch, and it's just a lot of that. We call them BICS, basic interpersonal communication skills, conversation, asking the questions, identifying all the things that you need to know how to navigate your day at high school. The types of questions that you need to ask your teachers for, can I go to the bathroom, right? All those things that just we don't really think of through the course of our day. And then we're using the highest level for our more advanced students. Students are sharing that they're really enjoying the program. They're feeling very supported. It is quite rigorous. Sometimes I look at the curriculum as I'm prepping and I'm like, wow, are we really gonna do this? But they do it. They rise to the occasion. So I think it's been a really good addition. One of the best parts is that it's non-linear, so you don't have to start at A and go to D. And each unit is focused on, they call it issues, so the kids have really enjoyed picking the issue. And the last one was on teen sleep. And so all those words about deprivation and, I learned a lot. So I think it's been a great experience all around with that piece of it.
How many languages are we supporting? I mean, kids that, sure, Spanish is high, but are there other languages that?
I think in the district there's 5, and then we're supporting with our active ELs, we have 2 languages right now. With students speak Turkish.
Wait, so there's kids that are coming in to this program with their original language being, there were 5 different,
Yeah.
but then what was the 2 that you?
We're supporting 2 that are
Still
low enough on their English score that they need support.
Okay,
2 different languages.
okay.
We have many students who speak, English at school and another language at home, but they're
Testing.
not an EL student.
Right, and that's what I'm like through this program.
And what are the 2 languages?
Predominantly Spanish, and then we have a student who speaks Turkish.
Oh.
Yeah.
We had French. Remember when these kids got an award for graduating out, so we had French, we've had Chinese. And was it Russian? I thought we had
We do
Yeah,
have kids with
Russian.
Russian.
Yeah. so we've had 5, as many as 5.
Wow, that's.
Yeah.
Look at us being
I know.
diverse. Well, thank you so much for your hard work on this. This is amazing, and I'm glad it's already working. That's outstanding.
We need a motion
Yeah.
to approve this. I make a motion that we approve the K3 ELD curriculum.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing well.
All right. You have a good spring break?
Thank you. We can talk about that later time. We have
Oh.
always being on a ship. We were quarantined 1 whole day in the ship.
Well, 1 whole day is not the end of the world. I
No.
could have been there for a
They
month.
didn't even have to tell us that we were gonna be quarantined. We were not leaving.
Oh, gosh, I'm sorry.
So, but it was okay. Thanks for, now you wish you didn't ask.
Glad you're here.
Me too. Feeling good. It's good to be back. Love Central again. I have a required presentation to give to you, which I've streamlined as much as I possibly can, because most of it is review. This is the integrated programs, but we can connect at a later time to go into details. I think that you're gonna get enough information here. And then we will be posting a ton of information about the plan on the website. We're kind of in the last phase of the drafting everything. It's all due April 30th. And then you'll be able to get a ton of information with this, but it should provide enough.
Is it 2nd or
information.
3rd year of this process?
We're going into, well, we've done 2 years, year before, so we would actually be in the 4th. The first year we did it, it was heavy in the process figuring this out.
Yeah.
Now we're kind of combining our strategic plan with this, and it's helped out a lot. So the purpose of today's presentation is to go over the plan. It's at the end, or whatever, ask for your feedback, but I think I'll be able to answer a lot of questions as we're going, and then make sure we're still in agreement with everything. Ultimately, I gave you the budget, which is what I've learned boards care most about. And so that is you'll see that our plan really hasn't changed. And so then we'll be asking for you to approve the plan. Yeah. Okay, and I will begin to the one of the last is I always fear as a teacher to give you the handout first or after the presentation.
Yes.
So a little bit of the background is that this did start with us in 2022. It was a total of 7 programs. It expanded to 9 programs. And what it's supposed to do is reduce the burden because you had all this reporting to do for these different programs. And so they've consolidated it. And while a bit bumpy, I think that they're accomplishing it. We have seen some inefficiencies that it probably could be a little easier. And we have a good relationship with them that we don't mind expressing that. And I think that we did that in our last review on our 3rd question. We expressed our concerns about the accountability that we have to endure kind of stagnates our ability to be innovative. And they're well aware of our position, and pretty soon they'll probably take that off our question. And don't ask sisters that question. So essentially, this is how it lines up. When we first looked at this, is that these are the programs on the left, the common elements that we're supposed to focus on in the middle, and then the goals. And so what we did is
Go back to that, Joe,
yeah,
just for fun, because I haven't ranted in a while, but carve out. I'm not sure if that was a carve out. So these are all things that the legislator decided to give the money we should have had anyway, and then make a big report around it.
right.
Right, so this is kind of the stuff that is really fun from this side is, before we knew it, we were getting the same amount of money, but had 9 reports to do instead of just getting the money to support kids, so. I guess SIA might be the only one on there, the student investment account, which supposedly came from new money, but to some degree, that always gets factored in when they look at the state school fund, because they know we're getting money from SIA, even though it's supposed to be additional funds. So maybe you could say the student investment account isn't a carve out, but most of those are to some degree pet projects because of lobbyists and other groups, like the High School Success Act. We've known for a long time when kids are in 2 years of a cohort, whether it's CTE or advanced placement or advanced math, that they have a higher graduation rate. So they did a carve out and made a bill to show how we're doing that, which every school's doing. So, yeah, okay, I'll quit. Sorry. I told Joe to be brief, and then I'm like, I couldn't help myself.
Some things just get derailed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's
But-
someone's resume builder right there, so let's not
Yeah. Yeah.
That's exactly what that is.
we can talk about PE minutes later.
Yes.
That's exactly.
That'll be another one. Thanks, thanks.
You're welcome.
Tuesday and Saturday.
Sorry, Joe, go ahead.
Roll. So the goals are similar, just different wording is what I think. So they're just different titles, and that's what we looked at. We tried to look through, we're trying to make it as most efficient and helpful as possible. I truly felt like we did that the first round, and now we're kind of in rhythm and we're making it work the second round. And I think that we did that a lot with our strategic planning that we're involved in with this year, which was helped with the community movement. So that long list, I'm not gonna go through it and explain that, but that list that Kurt just went through, this explains what each one is for. And so they're not actually all reports, like Kurt said, the CIP, the top one, we've always had to do.
Yeah.
And it's just part of the process, and which is interesting because the CIP is part of the title funding, and we have to create that in a different report. So it's not necessarily combined in this right now. However, I can see why they say it's improving because we're talking about goals, and we'll get to that. So Everyday Matters, something that we focused on. Tim really ran with this a few years back with the 95%. Then Career Connected, High School Success. This is just defining and essentially explaining them a little bit more. Early indicators, we get $3,000 for that. And I'll explain how we use that money. in a few seconds. Early lit, that's basically a new one. You've seen Joan up here a few times, actually Joan ran once, and CTE is always been around, but they combine that. We don't do much with CTE because we're in a consortium with the High Desert. And then we don't do much with federal. So our needs assessment through interviews and surveys. Essentially, it wasn't anything crazy, but the community says they value and want us to ensure we do things that are on strong relationships. Staff consistently says they need more time. This was in the surveys for different reasons, which are up there. Reading proficiency from the staff. From the staff also have stated that the grade level student success teams are meaningful and helpful. Students want us to do more with engaging in relevant learning. They want to continue to feel emotionally safe and look for other opportunities for the students. So that basically summarizes what we've done in our community engagement. So the equity lens, that'll be on the on our website. So but I consolidated it. What we do regularly, you know, sometimes you put something together to be just compliant. Sometimes you put something together that's meaningful. And so our equity lens is essentially our team will ask, not outspoken, but we'll be asking these things constantly. This is in front of us. And I think that you felt a little about that. We're trying to answer one question right now with Joan and Melissa.
Bottom line is really us removing barriers of access, right? Access and opportunity. And trying to remove barriers for kids.
Which we always have done.
Yeah.
So our plan is more in alignment with the required goals. We don't have a choice. We have to do something with third grade reading. We have to do ninth grade on track and graduation. There's two different parts to graduation. And we do a thing of sense of belonging. And so you could call sense of belonging. They call it attendance. And so some of the key strategies that are woven into this as well, you'll see that the budget is mostly people. This is why, is that these are our key strategies: social emotional learning, our student success teams, and the student success teams do a lot of individualized planning. I can't speak for all high schools or all schools. I just remember being at the high school. They look at the students, the individual students, and that tends to be a great success. Fan community liaison are part of our goals, or part of the strategies. A lot of it is to help us keep class sizes low. High leverage instruction, we continue to look for credit options. We have to do that within our available resources. Place-based instruction. We haven't really talked about Wildhaven lately, but that's probably the one possibility coming up in the next few years that we might be able to use, but you'll see things are kind of pretty tight. English language learners, counseling programs, you've heard continue to grow under Lorna's leadership. CTE programs, our approach is do what we do as best as we can. Right? It's not necessarily create other options, but can we create additional options within the current programs?
Although I'll say we've tried to align flight sciences come on board. We are looking at other programs. Health Lock has changed a little bit from what it was. So we're tweaking some of them and creating some better pathways for others.
For sure. I mean, Woods is adjusted, yeah, for sure, but that's within that current program.
Yeah.
I guess what you're right, flight science isn't a full-fledged program. Yeah. And then enhancing career explorations, that's part of some of their suggestions, and we do that through Wayfinder in CIS.
I have a quick question about the career services thing, or career exploration.
I might need some help from my colleagues on this.
Pretty. So it seems like even in middle school, right, that they're talking about careers and going.
Hopefully, yeah.
to See stuff, like, is that just here in Sisters or is that statewide
It's
where?
supposed to be statewide. It was
Okay.
funny, we actually sat in on the EL meeting the other day with the state. And Tim was talking about the 7-12 plan because it starts in middle school. And they're like, we just think this is so fantastic. And I kind of had to remind them it's state law. I mean, we're supposed to have a 7-12 pet plan for every kid. And so ODE wasn't like, wow, this is great that you guys do that. We haven't seen that with other schools.
Whoops,
So, yes.
wow.
Anyways,
You can bring that up next time they talk about.
yeah.
But we do have a gold star.
That's right.
Okay, it seems so early, I mean, compared to, what's in my day, right, I mean.
What they try to
That
ultimately
boost is
prepare for
awful.
high school, thinking about, well, what are your classes that you wanna focus on in high
Yeah.
school?
It's trying to have kids engage in even if it changes, recognize it changes, but what do I wanna do? They, at one point with the expanding options bill, connected the expanding option bill to your PEP. So if you didn't list your goal on the PEP and say you got to be a senior in high school and you wanted, so the expanded option bill is that the district, if they run out of options under your area that you want to study, they could help pay for, actually the law states they have to help pay for a community college class, if they don't offer it. And the caveat was, it had to be listed as a career option on your, so if you had kids not actively working on their pet plans each year, they wouldn't know what that means, right? So if kids would go, I wanna go be a welder, and I'm like, well, here it says you wanna be an accountant, sorry, I guess a welding class would be great, but we don't have to. And we also had to send half of our ADMW to the community college to pay for it, so it was a hit from the district side also, the expanded options bill. So there is some importance to doing it and keeping it active with our kids, because if they don't have it on their plan, then they don't have expanded options if they don't keep that current.
Yeah, and it's truly supposed to be exploration of ideas, I think CTE does a wonderful job of bringing folks. Students to trade fairs and exposing them, giving them seminars, stuff like that. And so this is what you should have on, and I just have this year's, so we can see it. You'll notice that we're way over budgeted right now, and there's some reasons behind that. This isn't due till April 30th. Sherry and I are cleaning it up. But if we pay for everything that we want to pay for at its anticipated cost for next year, that's about how much it will cost us. So we'll have to, we'll have to move some things around. In fact, that's C1 provide professional development, that's 9,000, so that's 9,000. And then we are moving 78,000 from this year into next year, so I'll adjust it, and that should bring that $150,000 down. And then the 40,000 in the high school success, which is the HSS, will probably just reduce the amount. However Sherry wants to do it, that's easier for her for accounting. Sometimes we'll only pay for the high school student success coordinator instead of 1.0, pay 0.75 out of this and 0.25 out of the general fund.
So I'll answer a question I anticipate coming, which is, we chose certain buckets under the guise of the grant because you have to report on each bucket you tap into. They have them defined for different services. And so we tried to optimize the money out of a couple of buckets instead of a little bit out of all buckets, because then we'd have to report on every subcategory across those. And so we tried to be smart in streamlining our reporting responsibility and taking fully advantage of it. So that's why we're top heavy in some of the support, because we've invested a lot in reduction of class size, right? I mean, that's also where that streamlines that reporting. Doesn't mean that it's still a district priority with the local option as well. It's really to streamline the reporting requirements to the state.
And you'll see everything, the title says sustain, or most of them say sustain, so that's, we've been doing it since 2022.
So the blue is that addition?
Yeah, the blue is something that's reminding me, so this is my worksheet,
Mhm.
and this is what I have to put into. So it's reminding me that this, I need to change something.
And remind, really for the EIS, HSS and SIA, what are,
High school success, student,
oh, that's the high, okay.
yeah.
And then EIS.
Yeah, that's that reporting thing that I said that so that's $3,000 that we're moving a little bit of what Sophie does, so that's why it says data analysis. So, yeah, out of those 9, we only get funded for 4.
No wonder you're over budget.
So you can't see the early literacy down there, but you have it on your sheet.
And these are the things that are. These line items are on here because this is what's required, or this is what we're doing to
Meet our
Report.
goal.
per the goals that.
Yeah, one of our primary ones is we believe there's strong correlation when teachers know their students very, very well and can connect with them. And so the best way to do that is to have the teachers have less students.
Yeah.
And so that's what we keep our focus on, along with the counselors and some of the behavioral supports that we've added. For instance, the original, we didn't have speech and language pathologist, but they added, what was our first year, or the end of the first year, gave us a few more dollars, and so we had that. There's also another tiered, they request, if you do receive additional funds, what will you do with them? And so that's what we have to have that list as well. And on our original list was the SLP, speech and language pathologist.
So if you have more buckets, do they give you more money? I mean,
No.
so it doesn't matter. You get to
the
choose
same
your
amount of
bucket.
Money, you choose your buckets, and if you choose something out of all 5 of the buckets, you have to report on all 5 of them.
Right, so that's why I'm trying to understand
Yeah,
what
yeah, we reduced.
When we say buckets, what are we saying? Do we say
Well, like-
buckets?
line items, we're talking
No,
about
no,
line
the
items.
line items, these line items cross over too, they have like small class size or supports the student, right? It would be 1 bucket. Diversifying staff would, I mean, there's, and I can't remember, it's been 4 years since I initially did the report, but there's like 5 different classifications that you can choose from.
Under these line
That offer
items.
supports, and many of these fall into the same classification. They're
Got it.
just the line items that we're choosing.
Reporting on.
Yeah, that we're reporting.
I see, so I think what you're referencing when you say buckets, and maybe it's not a big deal, is the common elements or common goals?
It's not just that, but even under, for example, at least I know when we were the student investment account before Joe moved to the central office, myself and Shay Michelson and all the superintendents, who was all new to us, there were like 7 categories of spending options, right? And they were defined. And for each one of those you chose, you had to report on those options. So we tried to just do 2 or 3 instead of all of them, partially because at that time our bucket was smaller and we didn't need to choose something from every option.
Right.
So they may have streamlined that since my
They
time,
have, yeah,
because
so-
that was,
When you said buckets, that's what I thought you were talking about, is the money is, the money goes into, they have whatever, algorithm or formula they have, and they say, okay, sister's gonna get this much in, that's just a success grant, this much in the SIA. That's what I was thinking is buckets, is when you have a bucket, that's where all the money is. And so from that SIA bucket, how are you spending that money? Well, then we have some allowable uses that we have to meet.
Right, I that makes perfect sense.
Okay,
And it's more about reporting than anything.
It
I
is.
I get it.
and so, yeah, within that, we could expand that, as Kurt was saying. If we wanted to, but we're trying to streamline it
To make it easy.
to make Yeah.
Yeah.
Reporting a little bit easier to make it a little cleaner. And. Yeah, that's good, great clarifying question. I'm pausing because I think there was another, something I could show you and how the goals are broken down. To help you understand, but I think.
No, I totally do, and I'm sure there's sub things that you're allowed to include in this budget line item based on their curriculum or their requirement, and then that's why we have what we do in these line items. It makes perfect sense.
Okay.
I got it. I just was trying to understand limiting the line items is solely based on recording, and that makes perfect sense.
Well, it also has to align with our, I mean, these also align.
Of
with
course
our
they do.
Vision, right, all that stuff,
course.
but yes, it was more of a.
Why have more line items if you're just,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
overwhelming? I get it.
And when we wrote, and I think that professional development, the first 2 years was a great example, is we wrote it in a way that we could include early lit stuff to admin stuff to allow people to go. And so we wrote it general, so everything would fit into that line instead of making 2 separate lines.
Are there things that we are leaving off by making these decisions? Are there, we've identified these are the areas that we're focusing on, that we're choosing to report on. What are the areas that we are, we don't have to get into this now, because I'm sure it's a much bigger list, but what are the areas, I'm curious to know what are the other, like, examples of other areas that we are choosing to.
We're serving all kids. I would just say that it's become a game of what bucket of money we're paying for this, and that frees up money in the other bucket to pay for that. And so whether it's these pullout grants, our general state school fund that comes in, other, whether it's our federal sped budget, right, Title I, like we serve all kids in every capacity that we need to 100%. It's just, in this instance, we chose certain services, so we didn't have to report on all of them.
Right, yeah, okay, yeah, that's fine.
So we really have a lot to do still. This has to be submitted by the end of the month. And then they're gonna review it. Some people are gonna get this quality assurance group of some sort, but not all of us are gonna go through that. They're just gonna pick some. Then we meet with ODE for those that have been here for a few years. The principals and I will meet with ODE to make sure that our growth goals, GT's growth goals are, so that's the freshman success, the literacy, the goals we're basically our growth goals are 100% graduation, 95% on track to graduate as freshmen. So we don't have much movement, they recognize that, but we'll still meet with them to ensure that those are still solid. And then they send out the great agreements, and then I'll be back to present again to you at that time with the specifics. And at that time, it'll be more of, last year, I like how we've done it, or 2 years ago, is that I do an overview, then the principals follow with the actual growth goals. I think that's kind of a little bit more fun of a presentation than 4 days.
One of the concerns we have, again, just to layer in parts of my report into this, is that the state is looking at an accountability bill that basically says if you don't meet your growth goals, you might go into double secret probation with the state. To Joe's point, if our graduation goal is 100%, I mean, we may meet that on a year, but there's a good chance, because that's 1 or 2 kids for us, that we may not. And so it's going to be interesting to see what that looks like. The other concern, as we've talked about at great length, is Smarter Balance, and the fact that Smarter Balance kids anybody can opt out. By the state allows anybody to opt out for any reason. And so if that's what they're holding us accountable to, those scores, then it's kind of a ridiculous measure to hold us accountable for. So not to say we don't have room for growth and we're afraid of accountability. In that meeting, I said, hey, I'd love to invite anybody to come over and visit the schools and look at what we're doing and how we're serving kids. I'm just worried about what they use as targets and what consequences, as we got invited into a grant that's going to be a tremendous amount of work. Again, it has some other supports, but it seems like this is the era we're entering in public ed. So-
Yeah, they luckily, to that point, they won't allow us to say our goal is 100%. They'll say greater than 95%. So if you look at what so it's,
But even that, like if we're above 90 for graduation, because any given year could be 2%, could be, it's still a challenge. I expect we've been between 90 and 94 in the last 5 years. So even getting above 95 is a challenge. So I just stating a little bit of the obvious, when you're at the higher end of that curve, improving is really challenging.
yeah.
So we'll see what that looks like.
Just to sum up, I will say my experience with this is that they're trying. We beat up ODE a lot. I have found this a strong attempt on there, and they listen. I feel like we are a working partnership. I feel like if I have an issue, they reach out to me or I reach out to them and they'll fix it. And I've even provided some thoughts on making some adjustments. But I see where they're trying to go, and I've appreciated their efforts on this.
Yeah, so Mike Lindblad is our.
Yeah, and that's very,
He's
very
been out to
helpful.
business a couple times, really supportive. It's just, the concern is, there was several layers between Mike and the governor and the accountability bill, so I'll just be interested to see where that lands. But yes, we do get support.
Yeah, you said that how big ODE is,
It's what?
how big is it? Like something like,
I don't know the total number.
They're at home, so we can't count them.
Yeah,
I can Google it, but I.
I don't know.
I actually haven't, it has increased. I know when we had 893, they hired 13 folks to help enforce Senate Bill 893, which is the special education reform. Well, to call it that reform, they hired 13 additional folks to help support that. Gave ODE, the state gave them $3 million to support it and hire people, and said to school districts, well, this doesn't cost you anything. You should be serving those kids already. So, yeah, again, not to continue my rant, but at some point I will go off on PE again, but
No.
we're not there. Not today.
And so the last, if there are no, we asked, but are there any more questions or comments or thoughts? Because we would love for approval on the plan as stated.
Anyone have any comments or questions at this point?
No, I moved to approve the budget.
I'll second.
and plan.
All in favor?
I,
Aye. Thanks for all your hard work on this.
Yeah.
This looks
Yeah.
like a lot of fun, for somebody that's not me. I couldn't, I don't think I could do this.
I don't either.
Yeah. Okay,
I will-
Mr. Scholes.
We've been busy, so first, I don't know if I did this, we did it last month or not, but as we move on forward, I do want to thank Tim and Joan publicly for their service to the district. Tim is resigned to take an opportunity abroad, and Joan is officially announced her retirement. So Tim as a principal here for the last 6, but principal the last 4, Joan for 7. Really great work from both of them supporting kids and families in the district. So want to say thank you guys for that work and service. We've had a really strong team, and we're hopeful about getting strong replacements, but we've had a really strong team, and it's been part of the strength of us being able to move stuff forward. So thank you.
Thank you and congratulations.
In both regards.
Yes.
So it has been a busy month with some of those things. We're just closed the middle school job and our screening applicants to look at interviews later this month. Joan just announced, and so officially it doesn't close until the 27th, and then we will screen and hopefully interview in the middle of May. So by June, we should have 2 new principals on board and move forward. So actually timing is pretty good for us right now with, I think we fill both positions by mid-May, that's a good trajectory. So we're excited, for them and their new opportunities, jealous to some degree for, well, both of them. So we'll be continuing that work. You see in the packet enrollment, still fairly level where it was, down on what our projection was in the year. Again, that along with PERS impact is really, gonna create some challenges for us. We get to talk more specifically about that coming up on the 16th with our first budget hearing. So we're looking at, I still say, even as painful as it might feel, we're in a better position than many districts around us. So, and again, a reminder, I think Sherry estimated our roll up on PERS is about 1.15 million, just with that's not adding anybody, that's the cost of the new PERS rates on the district, or maybe it was 1.2, but it was significant. Again, we're still feeling good, even though that's gonna be a challenge. Bond update, we're at the tail end of getting keys done at the elementary school. We have some specialists who flow, and we issued some rekeying for special education, so we have to update and get everyone who needs access, but we should be at the tail end. We replaced, I think, 54 windows in the new building over the break. There was 2 issues, some of them that when they put together, had dirt or film or something in between the 2 panes, and so that was their fault. The other thing that happened is during construction in the ceiling of the bricks, there was overspray, and when they attempted to clean the windows, they tried to scrape it off and scratch the windows. And so 54 windows in total between those 2 were replaced over the break as well. We also had corrections return when those students were around and update and fix and actually retool some of the furniture upon request from staff after being in it for a while to look at how it can best support our kids. So we had another wave of that work happen over the break. So we're really feeling good about that progress. For the slab for the greenhouse, we have a volunteer group that will start construction. And so that's a positive. We met with the landscapers to look at, once school's out, and overseeding, and now that we've had the winter and it's done, so we'll look at the seed wash that happens in the fall because we got planted so late, so they'll come in and finish up with that. So we're really finalizing all that stuff and looking at good movement into the summer, and then again, working out the bugs this year, and next year should be again another fantastic start with more established sod and the things that were there fixed. SunWest, I said this morning, has been a great partner. They're really have been great to work with. And so they continue to be good partners, and when we call, they come out and aren't blaming other folks. They're taking care of things and getting it done. So they've been a good partner with us. So we're really fortunate about that. So that bond work is sunsetting, but really happy with where we are and meeting the needs of the building. So Park and Rec, if you saw the paper, the ribbon cutting, so they're in the old, now the community center, won't refer to it as the old elementary school, they're in the community center. So that's a great transition for them. We will look at continued opportunities about what it may look like at the Coolfield Center. I do have for the work session on the 9th, when we meet with city, 3 proposals from different realtors to consider representation on this. I had some other conversations with groups about their potential interest. So should have more information for the board for that work session to potentially take action on in May. Keep moving forward with that. Let's see. Well, I think. I think I covered all the biggies right now. I mean, replacing 2 administrators, budget season and construction, that's all. It's been busy. It's enough. So, any questions? Any other things?
I can't think of anything.
Okay.
All right, board business. We had some lovely readings that we have to take action on. Did anyone have any concerns about any of these policies before we adopt them? Or find any mistakes? What?
Didn't mind misspelling the word.
Wow,
Wow.
that's amazing. Does anyone want to?
I move that we approve these policies.
One second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm really surprised.
And
That's the best I've ever.
I'm gonna give credit to Melinda. It was more because she wasn't available to meet. That made us delay this because with the transition of administrations, it cut this list down in half
No,
of policies we needed to review. So
thank you, Melinda.
we would have we would have reviewed them once and then brought them back, take them off. So one time that well, the Payne and Crook County helped us. So it's leave it at that.
Okay, consent agenda. 2020, our regular board meeting minutes. We need to adopt these as well as a new hire, resignations and a retirement, 2 resignations, a retirement, adoption of consent agenda. Does anyone have any concerns about any of those, or can we go ahead and have action?
Move to approve.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Announcements, April 9th, joint city hall work session, 5 p.m. That's next.
Are you guys going into executive session today or not?
That was the plan, yes.
Okay.
It's not on here, I noticed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we probably should do that before because we have to go into session, come back out, then adjourn. So I would probably say if you're gonna.
I won't say that one word at the end
Okay.
until after we go into executive session. Okay, April 16th, official budget meeting. That's at 5. May 7th, official budget meeting, also at 5. May 7th, regular board meeting at 6. And then an executive session at 7. That's a busy day. So at this point, we should go into executive session before what do we recess then? Or we?
You can take a 5-minute recess, re-adjourn into executive, and then once you've done an executive, you re-enter the meeting in.
Okay. So let's take a 5-minute recess
Okay.
and come back. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we will end executive session and re-enter regular session. And at 7:20, we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.